I would like to briefly introduce our speakers today. We've been joined by Steve Kiefer, the father of Mitchell Kiefer and a member of the Kiefer Foundation, Bonnie Raffaele, mother of Kelsey Raffaele and the KDR Challenge, and Tammy Huffman, sister-in-law of Captain Timothy Huffman. With that, Steve, I'll give it to you.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you all for joining. Again, my name's Steve Kiefer, and we founded the Kiefer Foundation nearly 5 years ago, just after we lost my son, Mitchell. Mitchell was a young 18-year-old Michigan State student driving up to East Lansing his first month at Michigan State when he was rear-ended on I-96 and driven across a very narrow median into oncoming traffic and hit by a truck and killed instantly. And you know, this is obviously the most horrific thing that a parent can go through. But of course, what we were shocked by after losing Mitchell was just how often this is happening in our state and in our country. When you see the statistics, it's at least 10 people per day every day are killed by distracted drivers, and some estimates are as high as 50. And if you can imagine 50 people today being killed by a distracted driver, it's just horrific. And it's such a senseless and solvable act that we all need to get together to bring an end to. We've been working hard at a number of items, and most recently we've been focused on hands-free legislation, and I think Jennifer will talk more about that, but this is legislation that has been implemented in 25 states around the country, and every state where this is implemented, the traffic crashes, deaths, and even insurance rates are down. And by the way, every developed nation around the world doesn't allow people to drive cars and hold their phone in their hand. So it really is common sense. It's legislation that we believe is kind of the first step to really creating the awareness and then creating basically a enforcement tool for law enforcement. And we believe through that, through Hands-Free Michigan, as we call it, we can begin to change behavior and start eliminating this just horrific, deadly epidemic that's facing our state. So today, we're really pleased that you're joining us, and we're announcing the Hands-Free Michigan Coalition with really a focus of bringing together a number of industry leaders, community leaders, business leaders, all of you. And frankly, in this state, by the way, 88% of the population has been surveyed and supports the idea of these hands-free laws. So we're hoping with all of your support, we can bring this coalition together and first and foremost, get these laws passed, and then start to really put all of the other necessary activities in place that will change behavior and really bring an end to distracted driving. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today, and I'll turn it back to Jennifer.
Thank you for that, Steve. Bonnie?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jen. Thank you for joining us today. Once again, I'm Bonnie Raffaele. My daughter, Kelsey, was killed 11 years ago. So I've been at this 11 years trying to get things moving in Michigan to reduce the number of fatalities and put a load at distracted driving. Kelsey was driving home from her friend's house, and she actually was the one talking on the phone. So she was the one that was distracted, and she went out to pass a slower car and misjudged the distance of an oncoming car and was T-boned by an SUV, and she died instantly. So I decided that I had to do something about it, because at the time that Kelsey had passed away, we were all about stop texting. And don't get me wrong, texting is bad and you should never be doing it behind the wheel of a car. But also the simple thing of talking is distracting behind the wheel of a car when you have the phone in your hand. We could sit here and give you statistic after statistic after statistic on that issue. So I can't do this alone. Steve can't do this alone. So, Tammy and Jen, and so we want this coalition and need your help with it to get it going. And I educated for years. The first year I educated, went to all the schools. Most of the schools in Michigan, I put over 60,000 miles on my car in 1 year. So, and that seemed to help, telling the stories, getting the kids to realize, and now we just need to educate the older people in that, and we definitely need the hands-free law. Kelsey was a twin. I only have Courtney left, and she lives in Grand Rapids, and I always worry that she's going to be driving home or coming up to the zoo, and somebody is going to kill her by them being distracted. And I do not want one twin gone because of their distraction, and I certainly do not want the other one gone because somebody else. And you can't say couldn't be you, because I'm telling you right now, if you're talking on the phone and using your phone, if you're distracted as you're driving, chances are you're going to end up in a crash. So anyways, I talked long enough, and I just want to say thank you all for joining, and we really, really would appreciate your help and with this coalition and getting us going and saving lives. That's the important thing, saving lives. So, Jen?
Thank you so much for sharing, Bonnie. And last but not least, we'll bring up Tammy.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everyone, for all of your efforts. On May 6, 2013, my husband's twin brother was actively working an accident that was caused by texting and driving. And he was on the highway working the scene, and he got back into his vehicle. And when he got back into his vehicle, a 18-wheeler gas hauling semi-truck was on his phone looking at Facebook, actually. And he went through the accident scene and he killed Tim at that accident scene. There were 14 other emergency responders there. Unfortunately, Tim didn't make it. Arizona at the time didn't have a distracted driving law. They do now. And actually, it's a hands-free law, and it's been very effective. And so my whole goal is to bring that positivity that's happening in Arizona to Michigan and help with this coalition and help us raise awareness, have effective laws that can actually be enforced, and to move the voice forward and to save lives. I really appreciate anyone who, from the insurance industry, from the travel industry, anyone who can come forward with your bits of advice or your assistance. We really need your help to make Michigan safe. And that's pretty much everything I have. Jen?
Thank you so much, Tammy. So we've heard from just 3 of the what we know as thousands of families that have been impacted over the years, and there's thousands more that will be impacted. You know, distracted driving was already at epidemic levels in this country before this pandemic hit us. And over the last year and a half, we have seen cell phone use behind the wheel skyrocket to levels like we've never seen. You know, coming out of the lockdowns, we were seeing telematics companies showing anywhere from a 37 to 50% device increase in device use behind the wheel. People that normally didn't use their phones were using the phones, you know, just not even thinking about it when they're driving. How we're using our phones is changing. You know, we always hear about don't text and drive and don't, you know, talk on a handheld phone, but we're on TikTok, we're on FaceTime, we're streaming live videos, we're shopping, playing games, making appointments. People are conducting Zoom meetings while they're driving. Like, the uses and the evolution are continuing, and we need to stop playing catch up. But this isn't all doom and gloom, because we do know what works. The history of traffic safety has shown us that. With education and awareness, followed by good laws with strong enforcement, tough enforcement, and with technology, engineering solutions, infrastructures through the highway departments, that together all of those things will reduce crashes and save lives. They have with drunk driving, they have with seatbelt use, they will, and they are working with distracted driving, and it's time we bring them to Michigan. And so like these families have asked you, you know, we're really calling for everyone's help to help now. Do your part. I mean, this is affecting us all in one way or another. From corporate and business fleet safety programs, you know, even simple practices you have in your businesses ripple out into your communities, into your family, they change your behaviors. We have public policies and enforcement, you know, all the way down to safety programs and partnerships with the general public. We need to beef up all of our activities, and this is why we need everyone to help us. And again, we have the solution, and that's why we're launching the Hands-Free Michigan Coalition. We're calling on all Michiganders to join us. Save the ones you love and save our loved ones from any further tragedies, because it's only a matter of time before this happens again. Modeled after other successful statewide coalitions, the Hands-Free Michigan Coalition will enable us to power all the communities throughout Michigan with new and efficient programs, building on what we already have and the knowledge we have, but coming up with new ways and ideas to reach new audiences and to make this cultural change stick. We have to build a movement. We'll be recruiting diverse groups of stakeholders as our priority, developing strategies to move this grassroots movement forward so we all can contribute and move the needle. We'll identify opportunities to leverage existing activities, raise visibility, and expand our reach. We're going to schedule partner on community events throughout the state. We've got to do more. You've got to see this more. We need everyone doing more. And the biggest thing we need to do is get that law passed. It has saved lives in other states. We've watched it. 9 states have passed these laws in the past 2 years. It's time to do the same in Michigan. So we're asking everyone to join us on our first kickoff meeting, which will be next Wednesday, August 4th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be also a Zoom virtual meeting, and we need you all to be ready to come, hear what we're talking about, hear our priorities, offer your ideas, and let's get to work. You can find out more information about this event at handsfreemichigan.org/coalition. Again, that's handsfreemichigan.org/coalition. So now I'd like to open it up for any questions. If you could just use the raise your hand feature if there is anyone that has a question. Okay, well, with that, would any of our speakers, Tammy, Bonnie, Steve, do you have any closing remarks?
Jennifer, I'd like to add just a couple of things. First of all, for the people that did join us today, thank you for joining. And I just want to reemphasize a couple of points that were made during the discussion. First of all, Jennifer mentioned that 9 states have passed these laws recently. Jennifer and her organization, StopDistractions.org, have been extremely involved in leading those activities. So the first point is this coalition concept works. It's she's got a great working model that's been very effective in every state she's worked in, and it's going to work in Michigan. So please join us and be part of this movement and watch it work. The other thing I really want to mention is one of the comments that Bonnie made, because I think nobody really appreciates the gravity, the importance of this issue until they're personally affected by it, either a family member, a very close friend, and Bonnie mentioned that. But I would just even sharpen the point on this and say, for all of you, it's going to affect you in this next year. I hate to say that, but it's going to affect you. It may be yourself, it may be your child, it may be a loved one, it may be just someone in your child's social circle, but it's going to affect them. And when I say affect them, it's affecting people every day. Today, it might just be a panic stop behind your child. They may not even know about it. Somebody who was looking at their phone slammed on the brakes and spilled their coffee all over their lap, and they had a little bit of a bad day, and your child didn't even realize it. It might be a small bump at a stoplight when somebody taps your bumper and scratches your car, and you think, well, that was not a big deal, but it could have been much worse. or it may be one of the thousands of accidents that happen every day that actually injure people so that they're living with deliberate, chronic injuries for the rest of their life. Or in the worst case, it can be the stories that us three just told, where you've got a family member that's been killed. But I just hope that everybody can personalize this and really understand that if we don't do something about this, it's going to impact you. And then the last thing I would just say is I think all of us feel a tremendous responsibility in this cause, because as I said in my opening remarks, it will be September 19th will be 5 years since we lost Mitchell. And every day I think I've not done enough to get this done, because every day another 50 people are killed. And I just can't stand the fact that we're not getting this done. So I just really urge all of you to help us spread the message. We have a lot of media here. Please help us spread the message. Please help us get people involved in this, and let's get this done. This is a very, very solvable problem. We just need to get the right focus on it and start changing behavior. Thank you so much.
Tammy, Bonnie.
I just want to say that I really don't want anything to happen to anybody else's family as far as distracted driving. We care, or we wouldn't be here. It's not easy for us to sit here and tell our stories over and over and over again, but we do it in the hopes that we can save somebody from going through what we went through. And we just need your help to do that. And I believe that we can get her done. We can do this. So, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Again, I just want to thank everyone for joining. And what they said is true. Until it affects your family or your circle, you don't know the impact. We live it every single day. Our loved ones are no longer with us because of a choice that was made. Simple choices, simple fixes. And if we can change that behavior, and we can change the thought that using your phone is safe when it's not, I think that's what we really need to focus on. And I just want to thank you, and I look forward to working with y'all. Take care.
I see there's some hands raised, but Michael Malott.
Yes, the question I'd like to ask is that there is a package in the legislature. Mari Manoogian, Mike Mueller, and Joe Bellino have a package of bills that would address distracted driving. What's your assessment of that package? Do you support it?
Jennifer, do you want to start, or do you want me to?
Steve, you've been working directly with Mari and been on the ground, so go ahead.
Thank you so much for the question. Absolutely, we support it. Mari Manoogian first brought a package forward in the last session, and it didn't go quite far enough. And I'm so pleased that in this session, Mari, as a Democrat, worked with 2 Republicans, and it's actually 3 bills that come together, 1 Democrat, 2 Republicans, that are working in a bipartisan manner to get these bills passed. So I think all of us are extremely supportive of them. For those of you that haven't seen them, they are sort of what we call hands-free bills. They basically make it illegal to hold the phone while you're in the car. So you can use your phone in a Bluetooth or connected manner, as long as it's mounted in a hands-free fashion, in a safe fashion, so you can keep your eyes on the road and only use voice commands. So yeah, I think we're we're all supportive of it. And I would even go a bit further to say, as I mentioned earlier, when we surveyed the voters and the residents of this state, 88% of the residents of this state are supportive of that legislation. We call it effective and enforceable. Enforceable because it makes it easy for law enforcement to see if somebody's misusing their phone because they're holding it. So most residents in the state, 88% support it. And by the way, as we've been working with the 110 members of Congress, the House members here in Michigan, by our count, 90 of them support it. There's only 20 that do not support it. And those 20 have been very vocal and are basically stalling the House floor vote. So part of our activity right now is really trying to get bring some visibility to that issue. And frankly, I'd appreciate if any of the media representatives here would seek out those people that are opposed to it and really try to get some public spotlight on why they might be opposed to it. Because frankly, the arguments I heard are completely illogical. And we can certainly follow up afterwards with a very detailed list of those 20 no votes that we're trying to correct.
Yeah, and I can jump in there on, the legislation in Michigan has been drafted to, around model legislation that has been adopted around the country, as well as the model legislation developed by the National Conference of Insurance Legislators, which was a unanimous bipartisan vote. This is a hands-free law. It's modeled after the 9 laws we've passed that are successfully reducing crashes. They're saving lives in other states, pedestrian fatalities, bicycle fatalities. Even with the pandemic and fatalities rising in states that recently passed laws, they're not seeing as large of a rise. And in some cases, they're seeing more just reductions. Telematics device use is also showing when these laws go into effect. Drivers are typing and swiping on their phones up to 22% less on the day the law went into effect in Georgia, and it continues to trend downward. So we know these laws work. We've worked on the language on them for a long time. We all do have to keep in mind with any type of law, especially one that's this important and this life-saving, we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We're not going to get the perfect law and it's not going to solve all our problems, but that's why this coalition can help address those other issues. And where that legislation may have shortfalls, we can work on addressing those through other efforts. So it will be successful. We have another one from Rick Pluta. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing anyone's names.
Nope, you pronounced it perfectly. So can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So what is the resistance that you're seeing to the hands-free policies that you're trying to get enacted?
Yeah, maybe I'll start because I've had the opportunity to go to some of the hearings in Lansing to basically defend these bills together with the legislators, and I would put them in maybe a couple of categories. First, one argument that's often brought up is one of civil liberties or personal freedom. The argument goes, you can't tell me what I can do when I'm in my car. Who are you to tell me what I can do when I'm in the privacy of my car? And of course, the response to that is, it's fine what you do in your car as long as it doesn't impact others or kill my child. So that's one I would put in the category of just a really, to me, a bit of an illogical argument. I would say some other arguments that we've heard is arguments related to racial profiling. I think we do need to be sensitive to issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I do think that the data probably shows that many laws related to traffic control appear to be disproportionately applied to people of color, and that's one of the arguments. But I think that's I think there's data that says that that's probably a bit of an illogical argument as well. But I think it's important that we're sensitive to that. And then I guess the last one that probably bothers me the most, and and Jennifer said it well, we can't let good be the enemy of great. I think there's a whole line of arguments that, in my opinion, it's a bit of a smokescreen to try to muck up the whole discussion so that nothing happens. but it'll be an argument like, yeah, the phone is one thing, but what about people eating in the car or drinking their coffee or putting on makeup or reading the paper while they're in the car? And those are all absolutely true. There's, all of these things are forms of distraction, as well as even hands-free talking on the phone. We know that there's a cognitive distraction when you're talking on the phone. We know people are paying less attention even when they're in hands-free mode. But we do know, when you look over the last 10 to 15 years, the most significant increase in distraction is the cell phone. This is the thing that we've got to get people to put down, stop looking at it, keeping their eyes on the road, and we know it'll save lives.
Yeah, and I can add on from, my experience across all the states and also here in Michigan. I mean, it's really just the same list of excuses that you hear in every state. This is a behavior we all do every day, and it's really a question that we have to ask lawmakers. Do you prefer safety or convenience? It's a challenge. It's hard for us all to change this behavior, but our lives are depending on it. And so that's what it comes down to. The public is there. The public wants these laws. The public is ready for these laws. The public needs these laws. And it's time they get passed. Bonnie, I thought maybe you could also add something, since the original law, you worked on getting that passed after losing Kelsey. And so, I'm sure it's kind of the same process that we're going through in excuses.
It was the House, as a matter of fact, that held it up even. What I got feedback on was the speaker at the time said that it's common sense to not use your phone while you're driving, but I would comment back saying it's common sense to put your seatbelt on too, to save your life, and it's a law, so yeah, it was a tough time to getting that passed. And when I actually did start that process, I wanted everybody to put their phones down, and my senator at the time said, let's take baby steps. So we got Kelsey's law passed, and I truly believe with my heart that it's saved a lot of lives. I truly believe that the kids are finally getting it, and it's now the older people that are thinking that they're really good drivers and they can do TikTok and all that stuff at the same time. But yeah, it was difficult getting it passes, but it was the same kind of hesitation from, it was the House that made me, but I have ways to get into them, and we can get to them, so I'll pull them out one by one like I did last time.
Is there any organizational opposition that you've had to deal with? By that I mean organizations that are on the opposite side of this.
Yeah, across all the country, there has not been organizational opposition to these bills, again, in over 2 years. Like these are bills that we have been, like I said, we've worked on getting the kinks out of the language, knowing what works with enforcement. This law is written so the phone is completely out of the driver's hand. So there's no more of those loopholes on what was the driver doing, because it's okay to hold it to dial, but not to text, but you can hold it to be on social media, which is currently allowed in Michigan. It is not illegal to be on social media while driving, but you can't text and drive. And so after trial and error and working through this, law enforcement now has training specially developed for distracted driving enforcement. We all know what works. And even if you don't mind bringing Tammy into this on that law enforcement, with the experience she had in Arizona with the law, Tim was a member of law enforcement, killed on the scene of a crash while he was doing his job. They didn't pass the law even at that time. And it took another officer being killed in the exact same manner by another distracted driver in order for them to pass the law. But Tammy, was it the same list of excuses we currently get?
Thank you, Jennifer. And yes, it was. It wasn't until Clayton Townsend was killed by a distracted driver. As a matter of fact, Tim's killer, we couldn't even charge him with distracted driving because it wasn't a law. His killer got a lighter sentence because of it. And having someone who's out there as a first responder protecting us every single day, and knowing that every day he was putting his life on the line, and knowing that the law that he loved didn't protect him, it totally opened my eyes to how the wording has to be effective and how it has to be enforceable for it to actually be substantial, and moving forward in Arizona, I know that it will be effective. And it is. I mean, frankly, it's saving lives every day. I just want that for Michigan. That's all I want. I want us all to have that safety of having the law be there when we need it. And I want to be able to protect others so they don't have to feel the pain that we have to deal with. Thank you.
Okay, well, looks like that is all our questions for today. We will get a recording of the video out to everyone. Please follow up with us if you have any more questions or need any more information. And remember to August 4th, join us for the kickoff meeting for the Hands Free Michigan Coalition by visiting handsfreemichigan.org. Thank you all, and thank you, Bonnie, Tammy, and Steve, for sharing about your precious loved ones and their losses. We really thank you.
Thank you all.